Hello and welcome to the Law School Playbook. Today's topic is case reading. So what is case law? Case law is really just a body of decisions made by judges. So as opposed to a book of rules, case law consists of decisions that judges have made interpreting the law, applying it to the set of facts involved in the case. This is how we learn in law school. Instead of being given a book of rules that apply to, for example, property law, we generally use the case law method, which means that you are working through cases to figure out what the rules are and how to apply them. Case reading is an essential skill, so while there might be a temptation to skip the reading altogether, at least after you first get started, or to use some type of technology or app that gives you the information quickly as opposed to gathering it yourself through your casebook, aka the Cliff Notes of law school, it really is important that you do your own reading because case reading is an essential lawyering skill. Frankly, lawyers read for a living. That's what we do, and that's what we get paid for by clients. So having a good grasp of this skill is critically important. There are three general categories of reading. The first we refer to as default. This is sort of just our natural go-to. Probably used it in undergrad. It's sort of a neutral read. I'm going to look at this text, see what I could learn. Some examples of default reading are things, frankly, that I still do, underlining, highlighting, writing in the margins. That's one category of reading. But there are other categories of reading that are critically important in law school. One of these is problem solving. The idea that you are actively engaged with the text as you're reading. We're going to run through some examples in this presentation, including having a purpose, engaging in role play, making a prediction and hypothesizing, inferring things, making an inference, and recursive reading. These are all problem-solving techniques that you can engage in while you're reading, and you'll find that they are critically important in law school. Mary Beth Beasley, who is a legal writing professor, and she also happened to be my appellate advocacy professor, she says that there are readers and users of legal documents. And I think that's very true. I love that, and I think about it often. So these folks that you see here, they are readers. They are relaxed, looks like they're on vacation, looks delightful. They read those books likely from beginning to end without sneaking a peek at the back to find out what happens, and they read in a very linear fashion. Those are readers. When you approach a legal text, you are not a reader, but you are a user. You are using it for a purpose. So that means that you're not necessarily going to read in the same linear fashion that a reader would read. You are a user. Another category of reading is rhetorical. This is another active strategy. It's when you engage in independent evaluation of the text. So again, we'll talk more about these examples. An example is self-explaining, opining, and adding perspective. So which of these three categories or strategy is best? A combination of all three. I use all three on a regular basis without even thinking about it. The point is to avoid approaching legal text in a neutral way. Saying, oh, okay, I'm opening up my book, I'm, looking at my computer screen, I'm going to see what I can learn. No, you have to do more than that. It is and should be a mental workout because just using default reading, where you highlight or make notes in the margin, underline, will surely lead to you oversimplifying the material. You get the gist of it. Okay, I sort of understand. I'll wait till class to figure it out. That is not going to move the ball for you. You have to do more. It is and should be a mental workout. So go into your reading knowing that legal reading is difficult. It is and it should be, but it is a skill. It's a skill that you get paid for. And it's like riding a bike, right? You have to learn how to do it and do it again and again and again. And then over time, it will become second nature to you. But it is a skill and it should be difficult. So if it feels uncomfortable to you, you're doing it right. All right, so I want you to think about, this is something I spend a lot of time thinking about, is our current reading habits as a society. We do a lot of unconscious reading, light reading. We read in short intervals. We read on the screen. And I, even someone who's aware and constantly thinking about my own thinking and my own reading, find myself lacking cognitive patience to engage with long texts and things like that. This type of reading, this unconscious light reading, where we're just looking for the gist in and out of the text, is the antithesis of what you should be doing when you are reading a legal document. You instead want to engage in critical thinking and have sustained attention when you are reading a legal document. A concrete strategy that we can address. Okay, when should I read? Give me practical advice. And my practical advice, if you look at this guy, is read when you have enough energy, maybe not to be leaping in the sky like this guy, but read when you have enough energy for sustained attention, okay? Don't make the mistake that a lot of new students make by saying, okay, well, I have a chunk of time this weekend, so I'm going to get all my reading done for the week. That never works. Your goal is to do the reading as close to class as possible, but not so close that you'll fail to get it done in time. So it's not a good idea to do all your reading on Saturday, because come Thursday, it's all sort of mushed together in your mind and you really can't engage with it in class in the way that you'd like to. Reading ahead, again, not prohibited. Do what works best for you, but consuming too much reading at once will not lead to success. It will not lead to the best outcomes for you because it's just too hard to keep it all straight given the volume of reading that you do in law school. But reading when you're exhausted really won't lead to the best results either. Another concrete strategy. So have a purpose when you read. Why are you reading? Are you reading because you have to? Are you reading because you want to impress your professor? Are you reading because you're afraid of being called on in class? Those are all extrinsic inspiration. Those are all purposes for things and people other than you. It's not to further your legal career. It's much better to engage with reading having an intrinsic purpose. So for example, an intrinsic purpose might be, well, I'm actually thinking that I might want to be a property lawyer. So I'm going to read these property cases to see how I like this area of the law, right? It's for you. It's related to what you may or may not want to do in your profession. Or maybe it's not that specific. Maybe another intrinsic purpose is I want to improve my reading skills because I know that's what lawyers do for a living. Having that intrinsic purpose asks of yourself that you be a more engaged learner. And the more engaged and the more active you read, the better off you'll be. Another concrete strategy is to role play as you're reading. Again, another active strategy. So assume a role. Be counsel for plaintiff, counsel for the defendant, be the judge if you'd like, or the dissenting judge. Assume a role, put yourself in the case. Or another way to assume a role is think about, okay, I'm an attorney. How might I use this case in practice, right? I represent a similar plaintiff or a similar defendant. How might this case help me? The bottom line is to have intellectual curiosity and be genuinely interested. You know, law school is something that you're doing for you. It's your chosen profession and what you've decided is the right thing for you to do in your life. Be curious when you read. The students at the top of the class, and there is data to support this, studies have been done, engage in this type of role playing. And the students at the bottom of the class read just to get it done, or out of fear of being called on in class. So although it might sound corny and uncomfortable at first, having a role as you read will really help you become a more engaged reader. Another strategy is building your knowledge. Worked in the courts for 15 years, and I listened to the judges give charges to jurors in many cases, and the judges would always say, Don't leave your common sense at the door, right? Bring it into the jury room with you. Just as you don't go into a courtroom with a blank slate, you don't enter law school with a blank slate. You have prior knowledge and experiences that can help you when you're reading. And an idea is to build the knowledge. Think about how that prior knowledge incorporates with the text you're reading now. And let's say you're reading something that you have no knowledge about. You're reading a civil procedure case and you're scratching your head and you're like, I have no context for this. Unlike crim law, where you have, at the very least, you're, watching Law and Order or crime show. Civil procedure, you have no context for. In that case, and really in any case, you can obtain knowledge by looking at the course materials. So look at your syllabus. Where does this fall in the big picture? What are the learning outcomes as provided in the syllabus? What am I supposed to get out of this? How does it fit in? And then you could also use your book. Look at the table of contents. See where it fits in there. Where did the author think that this was important to include? Provide some context for yourself. There are often case notes as well in case books that are sort of a more straightforward discussion of the material. Read those. See if you can put a case in context in that way. And then another alternative is using the case itself to give you some context. Some ways you might do that: read the ending first. Remember, you're a user and not a reader. You could read the ending first, see what happens. You could look at head notes in the decision if those are provided. You could read the first sentence of every paragraph to put it in context. Look at the headings provided in the decision. Going in, unlike a reader who sort of goes into a book not knowing probably much about it, going into a decision with as much information as possible is going to make the reading experience easier for you and is also going to make it more effective. Bring your knowledge, build your knowledge prior to reading. Another strategy is having an opinion. Have a dog in the fight, as they would say. Would I have decided the case the same? Is it fair or unfair? What would I argue? Care. Be intellectually curious. Be vested. Be an active reader. Hypothesize and self-explain. This is really an interesting thing. As a reader, we read linearly. As a user, we move back and forth throughout the document. Wait, now, the judge just said this. Let me go back to the beginning to see what that part said. Engage in a dialogue with yourself. Oh, it looks like the judge is going to do this. Oh, it looks like the plaintiff is going to win. Some examples you might use are, what does this mean? I'm not sure. Why does this matter? Why is the judge talking about this? What do I already know? Referring back to your prior knowledge. How does this fit in the course? And what's confusing about this? So again, it's not a passive reading. It's a very active, engaged style of reading. Another option is to summarize. So put the case into your own words. Okay, I think that means that the plaintiff has a claim for battery. This will assist in your comprehension and retention. Another strategy that is recommended is visualizing as you read. Make the case come alive. Use imagery. Place the case in context. It makes reading a multisensory experience. A well-known professor in this area, Ruth Ann McKinney, I believe it was her, who said, picture the outline of, let's say, a house. You have the outline, and then as you read, you're sort of filling in the details, the windows, the front door, things like that. Visualization helps a lot of students to engage with the text. So what if you do all of these things, but you still don't know what is going on? You're reading a civil procedure case, you have no context, and you're asking questions, and you're engaging, and you've taken on the role as the judge, and you want to have an opinion, but you don't really understand the text. This is going to happen from time to time, especially in the beginning. Engage in triage in those instances. So what does that mean? Do the best you can. Go to office hours and ask your professor, look, I've tried to work through this. Here's what I got out of it, or here's some questions I had. Can I discuss this with you? You can ask fellow students, what did you get out of that case? What did you think? I was totally confused, right? You're going to make some of your very best friends, future colleagues in practice in law school. My best friend to this day is someone that I met in law school. Use those relationships to aid your understanding. And then a third a suggestion is that you use a reliable supplement, commercial study aid of some sort, or a scholarly treatise. Those are resources that just tell it like it is. It's the rule book that we're looking for, right? In order to prove battery, you have to have these elements, right? In order to have a burglary, you have to have a breaking and entering at night, right? Those resources break it down in a much more direct way. Those are not a replacement at all for your engaging with the material and trying to figure it out, but they are helpful to assist in your understanding. Just there's a lot of garbage out there, so make sure you're using a reliable supplement as opposed to just a supplement that was maybe free or available on the internet. Use these things to gauge your understanding and really stay after it until you feel like you've reached a point that you're able to grasp the material. That reaches the end of our presentation. If you want more information or you're looking for some more resources, please visit my website, which is www.lawschoolplaybook.com. There are podcasts in there. I am available for individual coaching if that would assist you. And as always, just do your best and I'll be rooting for you. Thanks.